I spent my 75th birthday alone while my family vacationed in Costa Rica using my own money. That birthday was meant to be special. I'd been promised something I hadn't experienced in years. A little joy, a little sunshine, and a reason to feel valued again. So I got dressed, I cooked, I waited. But what happened that day transformed how I viewed everything and everyone around me. I may be elderly, but I'm not blind, and I'm certainly not powerless. I'd been anticipating that trip for months. My son Marcus told me back in February that they were planning something special for my 75th birthday. A real vacation, he said, somewhere warm. Just pack your nice dresses, Mom, leave the rest to us, he assured me. I smiled so broadly that day I nearly dropped my coffee. It had been years since I'd been anywhere besides church or the grocery store. I hadn't seen a beach since my husband Robert passed away. When I asked about the cost, Marcus brushed it off. You worked your whole life, didn't you? You deserve this. Let us handle it. A week later, he asked to borrow my credit card, just to secure the rates and book the group tickets, he said. I hesitated momentarily, but I trusted my son. I handed it over without asking too many questions. He kept saying we'd go sometime in late April or early May. When April passed, I asked about the date again. He said, we're just working out the schedule. It'll align perfectly with your birthday, I promise. I believed him. I even bought a new suitcase, purple on sale, and kept it by the front door with the tag still on. I packed it slowly over 2 weeks, laying out my favorite sundress with a tropical print, my church sandals, a sun hat I hadn't worn in 8 years. I even included Robert's handkerchief for comfort, feeling like he'd be coming too in spirit. But the night before my birthday, Marcus called. He sounded rushed, like he was driving. Mom, I hate to say it, but the trip's getting pushed back a little bit, he said. My heart sank. Oh, for how long? Not long, maybe a few more weeks. Just some scheduling issues on our end. Oh, okay. So I'll see you tomorrow at least for dinner. There was a pause. Of course, he said. Wouldn't miss it. We'll stop by for sure. That was enough for me. I tried not to sound disappointed. After all, plans change, life gets busy. I told myself it was fine. At least I'd see them. On the morning of my 75th birthday, I woke up early and turned on my gospel playlist. I put on a fresh pot of coffee and started cooking. Fried chicken, sweet potatoes, macaroni, fresh green beans with smoked ham. I baked a sweet potato pie from scratch, using real vanilla this time, not the imitation. I even brought out the good china from the top cabinet, the one with the gold trim I only used on holidays. I set the table for 5. Me, Marcus, his wife Sandra, their daughter Keisha, and maybe Jerome from next door if they decided to invite him. I dressed in the blue floral dress Robert used to say made me look 10 years younger. I curled my hair, put on a little lipstick, lit the tall candles I usually saved for Easter dinner. The house smelled like love. By 5 o'clock I was ready. By 6 o'clock I started to worry. By 7 o'clock I had reheated everything twice. By 8 o'clock I stopped checking the window. By 9 o'clock I was sitting at the table alone. The candles had melted halfway down, the food was cold, my lipstick was smudged. I stared at the empty plates across from me and tried to tell myself maybe something had come up. Maybe they just lost track of time, maybe the baby had an emergency, maybe the car broke down, maybe the phone died. But I knew nobody was coming. My hand trembled as I lifted the fork. I couldn't eat much. The food didn't taste the same anymore. I took a few bites, then pushed the plate away and rested my elbows on the table. I stared at the birthday card I had bought for myself last week from the dollar store. It said, "You're still glowing," in pink glitter. I thought it was cute when I saw it. Now it just felt like a joke. I cried then. Not loudly, just quietly, the kind of crying that slips out when you've been holding it in all day. My shoulders shook. I wiped my face with the edge of the tablecloth and sat in the silence, letting it hurt. No one called. No one texted. Not even a "Happy birthday, Mom." Around 10:30, I wrapped the pie in foil and put everything in the fridge. I blew out the candles, changed into my nightgown, sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the purple suitcase by the door. Still packed, still waiting. I turned off the light and lay down slowly. the ache in my knees a little sharper than usual. I stared at the ceiling fan as it turned, the whisper of the blades the only sound in the room. I folded my hands over my stomach and whispered, "Maybe they forgot." I tried to believe that, but somewhere deep down I knew they hadn't forgotten, they just didn't come. The morning after my 75th birthday, I woke up to a still house. Not the peaceful kind of still, the hollow kind. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time, staring at the little purple suitcase I had packed and repacked for weeks. The tag still hung from the handle, untouched. A part of me still wanted to believe the trip was simply delayed like Marcus said, that it would happen another day, that I just needed to be patient. I went through my usual motions, brushed my teeth, tied my scarf tight, shuffled into the kitchen in my slippers. But everything felt slow, like I was dragging my bones through a dream. I made a cup of tea but didn't drink it, opened the fridge, looked at the pie, closed it again. I didn't have the energy to warm up leftovers. The dishes from last night were still stacked in the sink. I didn't touch them either. I sat on the couch, wrapped in my old knit shawl, the one Robert gave me before he passed. It smelled faintly like cedar and lavender. I stared at the floor for a long time, listening to the ticking clock on the wall. It was almost noon and still no calls, no texts, not even a "sorry we missed you, Mom." I held on to that sliver of hope that maybe today they'd reach out, maybe they got the day wrong. Then I heard a knock, 3 soft taps at the door. I got up slowly and peeked through the curtain. It was Jerome, sweet boy who lived 2 doors down, always polite, always checking in on me. His grandmother raised him right. "Open the door." "Hey, Miss Beverly," he said, holding a plastic grocery bag and smiling. "Got you that lemon dish soap you mentioned." "Oh, bless your heart," I said, stepping aside. "Come on in, baby." He walked in and set the bag on the counter. I was about to offer him some tea, but he noticed my phone sitting on the table. "You still having trouble with your apps?" he asked, picking it up. He nodded. "It's been freezing up again. You know how I am with that thing. I press the wrong button and everything disappears." Jerome chuckled. "Let me take a look." He sat down at the table, swiping through the settings. I went back to wiping the counter just to give my hands something to do. Then I heard him pause. "Miss Beverly," he said gently, "did you say your son was planning to take you on a trip for your birthday?" I turned toward him slowly. "Yes, he said it was going to be a family vacation, but the night before my birthday he called and said it was postponed." "Why?" He hesitated, then glanced down at his phone. "I didn't mean to snoop," he said, "but I follow your granddaughter on Instagram." "Keisha." I frowned. "Okay." He flipped the phone around to show me. There, clear as day, was a beach. White sand, blue water, and in the middle of it my family. My son Marcus, his wife Sandra, and Keisha, all wearing matching shirts that said Rodriguez Family Vacation. They were smiling, tanned, holding fruity drinks and posing in front of a giant hotel pool. The caption said, "Much needed reset. Sun #family #NodRama #just sunshine." It had been posted the night before, on my birthday. I stared at the photo, frozen. My mouth opened, but no words came out. I slowly reached out and took the phone from Jerome's hands, zooming in. It wasn't just a day trip. It was a full vacation, the kind with resorts and fancy dinners and spa days. I scrolled to the next post. Sandra was twirling in a sundress with a champagne glass. Another showed Marcus laughing with a cigar in his hand. There was even a shot of Keisha showing off her new gold bracelet. I scrolled and scrolled, photo after photo, but no mention of me. Not one. Jerome sat quietly. I could tell he didn't know what to say. I swallowed the lump in my throat and set the phone down gently. "They told me it was postponed," I whispered. "Said we'd reschedule. Said they'd come by for dinner." I felt the sting in my eyes before the tears came. I blinked fast, hoping to hold them back, but it didn't work. My shoulders trembled. I pressed my hands flat against the table to steady myself. "They left me," I said. "They really left me." Jerome got up and knelt beside me, his voice soft. "I'm so sorry, Miss Beverly." I thought if I had known. It's not your fault, baby, I said, wiping my cheeks. It's mine for believing them. He didn't argue. He just sat with me. That's what made it worse. How someone who didn't owe me a thing could sit with me in my hurt, while the ones I raised, clothed, and fed left me out like I was nothing. After he left, I sat in silence for a while. Then something in me stirred. I needed to know the full truth. I turned on my old computer and logged into my email. I hadn't checked it in weeks. Marcus always told me not to worry about it, said he handled all the bills and bookings through it. But I remembered one password, and that was enough. I typed reservation in the search bar. The first result made my heart stop. An email from a luxury resort in Costa Rica. Booking confirmation. Full week, ocean view suite, spa dons, all paid in advance. Billing address. Beverly Rodriguez. Credit card mine. The same card Marcus asked to hold for emergencies last month. I stared at the screen, hands shaking, my stomach twisting. They didn't just forget me, they used me. They used my money, lied to my face, took the vacation I was promised, toasted drinks to a new chapter, and left me to cry over cold pie. I shut the laptop, pushed my chair back and stood up. I walked to the mirror in the hallway and looked at myself. Not a fragile old woman, but a mother who had been taken for granted, a woman who had been silent too long. And for the first time in a long time I felt something shift inside me. Not bitterness, not hate, just clarity. After I saw the booking email, something in me went quiet. Not numb, just still, like my spirit had sat down to catch its breath. I didn't call Marcus right away. I didn't text. I didn't slam drawers or throw anything across the room. That ain't me. I just stood in my hallway, looking at my reflection in the old mirror, the same one Robert hung when we first moved in. I looked at myself long and hard. I saw every wrinkle, every freckle, every years-old smile line that now curved into something sadder. But I didn't feel weak. Felt awake. The next afternoon I got a call from Sandra. Her voice was sugar-sweet, like nothing had happened. She said they were back in town and, "So sorry we missed your big day, Miss Beverly." Like she didn't have my number all week long. Then she said, "Marcus is going to come by and bring you something nice." I didn't respond. I just said, "All right," and hung up. Sure enough, Marcus showed up that evening around 6 o'clock. He didn't even knock, just walked in like he used to when he was a teenager. I was in the kitchen folding dish towels. I didn't even look up. "Hey Mom," he said like he'd just come back from the store. "We brought you this." He placed a white paper bag on the table. Inside was a slice of red velvet cake from some fancy bakery, wrapped like it came from a wedding, not a birthday. I looked at the cake, then I looked at him. "That what you brought back from Costa Rica?" "Yes." His smile faded for a second, just a second, then he chuckled. "Oh, so you saw the photos." "I saw everything," I said. "The drinks, the hotel, the shirts, the bracelet on Keisha's wrist, the steak dinner. All of it. On my birthday." Marcus scratched his neck and shrugged. "Mom, we didn't think you'd want to travel all that way. You get tired easy." "That's not what you told me. You told me it was postponed." "We changed the plans last minute," he said. "It wasn't that deep." I stepped around the counter slowly, my voice calm, but I could feel the heat in my chest. "You used my credit card, Marcus. You paid for the whole thing in my name." His head jerked back like I'd slapped him. "What? It wasn't like that. You gave me the card for emergencies. I figured you'd be fine with it once you saw we enjoyed ourselves." "You figured," I repeated. "You figured your mama, who cooked a full meal and set a table in a dress on her 75th birthday, would be fine being lied to, left out, paying for her own exclusion?" Marcus looked annoyed now. "Jesus, Mom, it was just one birthday. You've had 74 of them." My hands trembled. I gripped the edge of the table. "One birthday," I said. "It was the first birthday I've had without your father, and I thought maybe, just maybe, you wanted to spend it with me, not run from me." He groaned and dropped into the chair like he was exhausted. "You're being dramatic." I blinked, stunned. "Dramatic?" "Yes," he snapped. "It's not like we left you with nothing. You had food. You always say you don't need much. Why is this suddenly some big crisis? I stepped back, my heart pounding in my chest. I thought about how I used to hold him when he had fevers, how I skipped meals so he could eat, how I pawned my wedding ring once to pay for his braces, how I prayed every night for his safety when he was out too late. I thought about how he used to fall asleep on my lap during thunderstorms and call me his favorite person in the world. And now here he was, telling me I had enough, telling me my pain was too much trouble. I sat down across from him, staring right into the eyes of the man I raised. I'm your mother, Marcus. Not your wallet. He didn't say anything. I didn't cry this time, not in front of him. I just stood up again and walked over to the pantry to grab the broom. You can go, I said softly. He looked up surprised. Mom. I need to sweep, I said. And I don't like sweeping around things that don't belong in my house. He stood slowly, and for a second he looked like he wanted to say something, but nothing came out. He left without another word. That night, I sat on the porch under the string lights Robert and I hung up years ago. I rocked back and forth in my chair with a blanket around my shoulders. I didn't cry, but I didn't smile either. I just let the cool air touch my face and listened to the crickets sing me a little mercy. I still loved my son, but I couldn't unsee what I saw, and I couldn't unfeel what I felt. I thought that was the end of it, that maybe we'd talk again later and smooth it out like mothers always do. But something was coming that would make me see everything clearer, and this time I wouldn't look away. I didn't go looking for trouble. I just needed a little help. A few weeks after the argument with Marcus, things were tight, tighter than usual. I was running low on groceries, and the power bill had come in higher than I expected. I didn't panic. I'd been through worse. I just figured I'd borrow a little until my check came in. Jerome, bless his heart, had told me about a retired judge who volunteered at the community center. Diana Clark. She helped older women get access to legal advice and support. She's sharp, Miss Beverly, he said. Doesn't play games. You'll like her. I didn't want to bother nobody, but I called. She came over the next afternoon. Tall woman with silver-gray locks, sharp eyes, and a no-nonsense voice that still had kindness in it. She walked in wearing slacks and flat shoes, carrying a canvas tote filled with folders. Miss Rodriguez, she said, shaking my hand firmly. You needed some assistance. Just a little guidance, I replied, motioning for her to sit. I may need to borrow a few dollars just to tide me over. I'm not behind or anything, just a bad month. She gave me a careful look. Do you mind if I ask? Don't you have a retirement account? Any savings? He nodded. I do, but my son's been helping me manage it. She set her tote down. And how involved are you with that management? He hesitated. He's got the login. He pays the bills. Said he'd handle all the boring stuff so I didn't have to worry. Diana leaned forward. Would you mind pulling up your online banking? Just so we can take a quick look, make sure everything's where it should be. I didn't want to embarrass myself, but something in her tone told me I should listen. So I opened my old laptop and let her sit beside me. Took a few tries, but I got into the account. I noticed it before she even said a word. The balance didn't look right. She scrolled through quietly, not speaking yet. I sat beside her, heart pounding, watching her face. When she finally turned to me, she didn't speak like a judge. She spoke like a woman who'd seen too many stories just like mine. Miss Rodriguez, she said gently, your account's been drained over the past year. We're talking multiple withdrawals, thousands of dollars, mostly transferred to a secondary account. Felt cold all over. That must be Marcus's. He's been handling things. She tapped her finger against a line on the screen. Look at this. Jewelry store, resort charges, electronics, even some payments labeled consulting services. But they're all routed through his personal account, not any business account. This isn't help. This is misuse. My throat tightened. He's just been under stress. He told me things were tight. He's trying to grow something. Diana gave me a look. Not cruel, not judgmental, but real. Beverly, she said, calling me by my first name for the first time. You are not a bank, and you are not here to be bled dry while smiling through it. I blinked, my lips trembling. But he's my son. And you're his mother, she replied. And you are worth more than how he's treating you. You raised him, you worked hard, you don't owe him everything you've got. I sat still, my hands folded so tight they ached. She closed the laptop gently. You said you wanted help. I can help, but only if you're ready to stop letting your kindness be turned into a weakness. I didn't answer right away. I looked down at the kitchen tiles and thought about the years I spent wiping those same floors on my knees. Thought about how I saved every receipt, how I skipped hair appointments so Marcus could have football cleats, how I never once let him see how scared I was when the money ran thin. I thought about how I waited on my birthday for a dinner that never came, and how the people I gave everything to used my money to toast under palm trees. I don't want to hurt him, I whispered. You're not, she said. He's already hurting you. We didn't finish the conversation that day. I needed time. Diana understood. She left me her card and said to call her if anything else came up. It didn't take long because the very next week, Marcus showed up at my door again, smiling. Hey Mom, he said, stepping in. Got some good news. I found a house. Real fixer-upper with potential. I'm trying to put in an offer before it gets snapped up. I raised my eyebrows. Oh. He sat at the table like it was his own. I need $40,000 to secure the down payment. I figured maybe you could front me part of the inheritance now, before it's too late. That was it. That was the moment. The air left my lungs like a punch. I looked him in the face. He didn't even flinch. He truly believed he was entitled to the life I'd built. I don't have that kind of money, I said. He leaned back. Sure you do. You just don't want to help. My voice was flat. You've been helping yourself, Marcus. I've seen the charges. His expression changed. Excuse me. I saw the resort charges, the jewelry, the electronics. You've been draining my account. He stood up. You went through my stuff. No, I said calmly. I went through mine. He scoffed. So what? You're cutting me off now. After everything I've done for you. You mean using me? Said, standing to. Lying to me. Leaving me home on my birthday while you drank and danced on my dime. You do this, he snapped. You're going to be all alone. Don't call me when you need something. I walked over to the counter, picked up Diana's card, and looked him dead in the eye. I won't. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. I stood there for a moment, feeling the silence settle back in. Then I picked up the phone and called the woman who helped me see the truth. Diana, I said. Let's get started. It didn't take long for the ripple to reach him. The very same week Diana helped me transfer my accounts, lock my credit, and revoke Marcus's access, the calls started. First, it was a string of missed calls, Marcus Rodriguez notifications. Then came the texts, short and tense. Mom, we need to talk. Why is my card getting declined? Call me now, this is serious. I didn't answer. I didn't need to anymore. Diana said it would take a few days for all the legal paperwork to finalize, but the minute the accounts were frozen, Marcus would feel it. And he did. I imagined him standing in a checkout line somewhere, trying to run my card and being told it was no longer valid. I imagined his eyes narrowing, his voice rising. I imagined the panic when he realized the bank login didn't work either. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel guilty. Felt free. But of course, freedom doesn't come without a knock at the door. Saturday morning around 10 o'clock, I was folding laundry when I heard the heavy thud of shoes on my porch. Before I could even peek through the curtain, the door flew open and Marcus walked in, loud and steaming. What the hell is going on? I stayed calm. I'd practiced this moment in my head every night since I made the call to Diana. I looked him in the eye and said, "You'll need to be more specific." He scoffed. "My business account is frozen, my bank app's locked, the credit card I was using for utilities just got shut down at the gas station. You trying to humiliate me, Mom? I'm trying to protect what's mine." He stepped closer. You really going to do this to your own son? No, I said softly. You already did it to me. Sandra walked in behind him then. She wasn't dressed like usual. No heels, no tight blouse, no lip gloss, just a wrinkled hoodie and a tight jaw. I told you this was going to blow up, she muttered to him, but loud enough for me to hear. Marcus turned to her. Stay out of it. No, I said, cutting in. Let her speak. I'd love to hear what y'all told yourselves while you were sipping drinks on my birthday, using my own money. Sandra folded her arms and looked away. Marcus didn't flinch. We needed help, Mom. The business wasn't taking off like we hoped. You always said your money was for family. My money was for emergencies, I said, stepping forward. For groceries, medicine, maybe a grandchild's college fund. Not for vacations and designer handbags and dinners I never got invited to. We were going to pay it back. When? Yes. When I'm gone. After the funeral. When the house is sold. Marcus's face flushed. Don't say that. Why not? I snapped, the heat rising in my chest. You've already spent like I was dead. The silence that followed was thick. He finally spoke again, his voice low and bitter. You've always made things harder than they need to be. And you've always made promises you never kept, I said. You promised to come on my birthday. You promised we'd travel together. You promised I'd never have to feel forgotten. I could see something shift in his eyes then. Not guilt, not sorrow, just the realization that I wasn't bending this time. So what now? He asked. You going to cut us off for good? I didn't answer him. I just walked to the drawer near the dining room, pulled out a letter, and laid it on the table. What's that? He asked. My new will, I said. Drawn up last week. Every penny of mine is going to a women's shelter downtown. The one that helps older women get back on their feet after being used by the people they loved most. He blinked, stunned. You're cutting me out of your will. You cut yourself out the day you looked me in the eye and saw a resource instead of a mother. Sandra was crying now, quietly. She grabbed her purse and backed toward the door. I didn't know it went that deep, she whispered. I thought you were okay with it. You knew, I said. I didn't say anything more. Sometimes silence tells the truth better than words ever could. She left without another word. Marcus stood there a moment longer, jaw clenched, trying to think of something that might wing me back. But there was nothing left to say. He finally turned and walked out, slamming the door so hard the picture of Robert on the shelf rattled. I went over and straightened it. Then I sat down at the table, looked at the half-folded laundry, and laughed softly to myself. Not because any of it was funny, but because the sound of strength returning to your own bones can feel like joy. After long silence, for years I believed my love had to look like sacrifice, that being a good mother meant giving until I had nothing left. But now I knew better. I wasn't empty, I wasn't confused. I was just done being their foundation while they climbed over me to build castles I was never invited into. And for the first time in decades, I looked around my house and felt something strange. It belonged to me again. A year passed quietly, gently, like spring blooming through cold soil. I won't lie, some days were hard, the kind of hard where you sit by the window and wonder if maybe you were too harsh, if maybe you should have picked up when they called again. But then I'd remember the ache in my chest when I saw that Costa Rica photo, the way Marcus looked me in the face and asked for an advance on my own death, the sting of sitting alone at my birthday table with a dress I ironed just for them. So no, I didn't pick up. Not when Marcus called 4 weeks after the accounts were locked. Not when he sent a single text with no punctuation that read, "So it's like that." Yes, it's like that. Because when I finally took control of my money, my name, my future, it felt like pulling myself out of a well I didn't know I was drowning in. Diana helped me get everything in place. We filed the paperwork to transfer all my assets out of Marcus's reach. We revoked every authorization he'd ever claimed. We reported suspicious charges. Some were even refunded. She even connected me with a financial advisor who didn't talk to me like I was slow or simple, but like a woman who knew the value of every dime she ever touched. Then we rewrote my will. Every dollar, every bond, every piece of land I still had, assigned to a foundation that builds housing and offers legal help for older women who've been manipulated or silenced by their families. I didn't tell anyone but Diana and Jerome. Yes, Jerome. That boy checked on me every week after everything fell apart. Sometimes he just brought bread or adjusted my TV remote. Other times he just sat and listened while I talked about Robert or how I used to sew prom dresses for half the block. He never asked for a thing, never assumed he deserved something. So when my 76th birthday came around, I didn't set the table for ghosts. I reserved the small room at the community center. I ordered food, not fancy, just real. Fried chicken, red beans, deviled eggs, pound cake with lemon glaze. I wore a warm gold dress that made my eyes look bright again. And I invited people who had actually shown up when I was at my lowest. Jerome was the first to arrive, carried in 24 roses and a Bluetooth speaker playing Mahalia Jackson. Diana came next with her sharp suit and that wise smile. Then came the ladies from the foundation, some with canes, some with grandbabies in tow, all of them dressed like royalty. We laughed, we danced, we passed around pound cake and stories. And Keisha showed up. There's Keisha. She came in quietly. No dramatic entrance, just a soft knock on the door and a birthday card in her hand. She wasn't wearing designer anything, no new bracelets, no perfect hair. She looked nervous. "Grandma," she said, standing by the door. "I didn't know what they did. I really didn't. Daddy said you didn't want to travel, that you were too tired." I believed him. But I saw the receipts after, and the truth. "I'm so sorry." I looked at her. My only granddaughter, once my little kitchen helper who used to stand on a stool to stir grits with both hands. I nodded slowly and said, "It hurt, baby." "It did." She stepped forward. "Can I stay?" I didn't answer right away. Then I pulled out a plate, handed it to her and said, "Go on, get you some of that pound cake before Diana finishes it." She smiled, shaky but grateful, and joined the circle. But I didn't hug her. Not yet. That's something she'd have to earn back. At the end of the evening, Jerome offered to drive me home. I sat in the front seat with the roses in my lap, watching the sun dip low over the rooftops. He glanced at me and asked, "Was today better than last year?" I looked out the window and whispered, "It wasn't better. It was mine." When we got home, I stood on the porch for a long time. The wind was cool but gentle, brushing against my skin like a blessing. I looked out at the street and thought about how far I'd come. Then I walked inside, changed into my robe, and made a cup of tea. I didn't look at my phone. I didn't check to see if Marcus had texted. I just sat at my kitchen table, alone, and smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I was whole. Gave them love. Now I'm giving myself peace. And that's the best birthday gift I've ever received.